Hi, friends. I'm Lauren.
And I'm Katie, and welcome to Okay, But Did You Know? A podcast where we talk about the TV and media that we love with a friend who's never seen it before.
Today we're recapping and chatting about Once Upon a Time, episode 114, Dreamy. This episode aired on March 4th, 2012. It was written by the showrunners Eddie Kitsis and Adam Horowitz and was directed by David Solomon. Now, before we get into our chatting and chaos, and this is going to be a fun episode, let's do a synopsis for the episode. In the Enchanted Forest, when Nova accidentally drops some fairy dust on her annual run, the magical powder falls down to a dwarf nest, causing one of the dwarves to hatch early, Dreamy. He and his brothers must work in the mines to collect the diamonds that will be turned to fairy dust, but he can't stop thinking about the woman he saw before he hatched. A year later, the woman appears. Nova is back to collect her supply of fairy dust again, and the two finally meet. After a fateful trip to a tavern where Belle convinces Dreamy to go after his love, the two decide to run away together and see the world. That is, until Bossy and the Blue Fairy intervene, convincing Dreamy that he can't let Nova stray from her path. In his anger, he breaks his axe and is now known as Grumpy. And in Storybrooke, it's Miners' Day, and Mary Margaret needs a few more volunteers to help sell the nuns candles at the festival, but no one wants to help her. That is, until Leroy has a run-in with one of the nuns, Astrid, and is inspired to help them. The two make an unlikely pair, and have trouble selling the candles the nuns need to stay in Storybrooke, until Leroy has a surge of inspiration and cuts the power at the festival so that everyone will need candles. Meanwhile, Emma is now investigating Catherine Nolan's disappearance, and all roads are currently leading back to David. Emma wants to believe him, but phone records don't lie. She needs to get to the bottom of this and get to the truth.
So this was an episode.
This was an episode, and I have one note that I really need us to start with before we
Okay.
go down your notes. Did anyone want or ask for world building surrounding how the dwarves came to be, and why is it hatching out of eggs?
I literally just, my first note is, that is a lot of eggs. And then, what is happening?
Like, of all the needless world building, I'm sorry, normally I can say, you know what, it's a creative take on things. You know, they don't really show us what happens with the fairies, where they come from. I think they just kind of operate under the same, like, Tinkerbell birth out of a baby's first laugh situation, but we don't get that explicitly. Did anyone ever need to know where the dwarves came from? I did like the aspect of getting their names on their axes. That's the one thing that I can say I'm okay with that.
You know what my biggest problem was?
But
Being born into a life of servitude.
that too.
Hey, look, you hatched from an egg, and now you have to mine for work in the mines for the rest of your life. Good luck. Oh,
And
but
we love it.
And you love it, and you're gonna do this forever, and there's no way you could ever love anyone. What the fuck?
This was such weird world building.
What was this? I mean, I will say that I got really excited. I was like, "Oh my god, it's the Grumpy episode!" Yes, because I love Leroy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I'm like, we don't have to keep going back to the Enchanted Forest. We can just stay in Storybrooke for this one.
I love Leroy, and I love your love of Leroy. It came out of nowhere, and I'm so happy about it.
Good.
But it's just like this episode always. I'm just like, every time I watch it, I'm just like, it's funny. It gets some points for funniness. It gets some points for Mary Margaret kind of being sassy and really kind of bringing on more Snow White-like qualities to her. But like, so much of it is just why with the eggs? I can never get past the eggs.
I mean, I'm sorry. I cannot be at a loss for words. This is kind of the job. So I'm struggling just slightly. But the fact that I was messaging just a little bit, hey, I'm starting. And then I started and I was like, I can't text her. What am I watching? I can't text her. Eggs? I have to wait. Thank goodness I watched this yesterday. If I had watched this days ago, can you imagine how many times a day I'd be like, why were there eggs?
Yeah. I'm glad I was by myself when I was watching this episode, because I was honestly screaming half the time. Or just very loudly cackling, or just going, what?
Look,
at the screen, even though I've seen this episode tens of times.
And when it comes to commentary, why didn't we get that? Give me commentary for this.
I want Lee Ehrenberg talking about hatching out of an egg. I want that.
Please. Oh my god, it's now my goal in life. I must know how he felt getting hatched out of an egg.
I really do.
Oh my god.
Okay, so we go through your notes now that we've gotten the why are there eggs out of our system. I'm so sorry to anyone listening to this episode.
I'm not. Why the hell were there eggs? Okay, I really did love the town harlot and the town drunk teaming up together.
Oh yeah, it's a dynamic duo.
I could not stop laughing at the nuns of Storybrooke.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, how many nuns, man? Like, how much is nuns gonna come up? Because the whole Mary Margaret thing, and then there's nuns, and she's selling the nuns candles. It killed me.
At this point, with the Mary Margaret supposed to be a nun thing, just forget it because the writers obviously decided to just drop that off. It wasn't even a part of the pilot. It's just a fun fact from like the first couple of drafts or something like that we know got changed.
Yeah, it was just really funny because I'm just like, y'all keep using nuns. This is, I love it, love it.
But I think it makes more sense this way if for a world building aspect that Mary Margaret is not a nun. If they decided the fairies are the nuns,
I don't think the affair would have gone very well if she were a nun.
My guess is her being a nun must be from the version where he dies.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
That has to be it.
That has to be it, because I cannot imagine trying to write an affair with a nun. That'd be interesting.
Especially towards the very end when Mary Margaret has her bit with Leroy of like, oh my god, you like her. She is a nun, Leroy. Could you possibly pick anyone any less available? Says the girl who went after a married guy.
Yes.
So.
About things like, Leroy is smitten, and we have the love story, the Dreamy, that was a very cute way of doing it. I do agree. I like the names on their axes.
Yeah.
Of course, Mr. Gold is the landlord. He's everyone's landlord. I loved the whole thing of they were talking about age between this is in Fantasyland.
Yes.
Talking about age, he's like, I'm young. I look young for my age, and I'm just sitting there like,
because he's one.
Man. He's one. And then I just have Belle. What?
So this is why I had to readjust your timeline. Because originally I had the timeline set. I think I had Belle being kicked out of Rumpel's castle. I think at 5 BCE.
Mm-hmm.
Which would be after 7:15 a.m. and all that stuff. This clearly happens before he meets Snow White and all that other stuff. So I had to just we're doing so much mental gymnastics. There's an episode from season 2 that makes even less sense now.
Oh no.
It didn't make sense beforehand. It makes even less sense now. But basically what I had to do with the timeline is I basically just had to move that one to be before everything that happens. So Dreamy happens between when Belle gets kicked out in Skin Deep and before he meets her in 7:15 a.m. because that's the thing that I said, like, I always viewed it as a plot hole because I knew what happened in this episode and what he says doesn't, work out with what happens here.
Yeah.
But you could almost surmise, and this is why I said, like, I was looking for a plot hole where there wasn't one. Because he says that he, she was beautiful as a fairy, which is the joke here, or the correlation here. But he said he was going to get a diamond to propose. So like it almost kind of infers that there's like, or implies that he has like a change of heart briefly after this. So like the story he tells, I'm now just deciding happens after this episode.
Gotcha. Okay.
That's why he gets arrested. And that's why he shows up in King George's castle.
All right then.
Yeah.
This is. I have the memory of a goldfish. Let's just go with that one.
There's no reason why I should have these things in my brain.
I appreciate that you do, though.
None whatsoever.
And then I have the moment of, oh no, Gloria, why do men keep lying? Why can't men just tell the truth?
Because men are men. I don't really have a reason for this. Because they think that they can, make these things work out for themselves in the end, basically.
And then I just have Mr. Gold is a dick. Also, who has a complicated history with nuns?
Rumpelstiltskin has an issue with fairies. He's got multiple issues with fairies. One of them you'll find out by the end of this season. But he's got multiple issues with fairies.
That got me. Wait, are all the nuns fairies?
Yes, all the nuns are fairies.
That's interesting.
That's when I say that, like, the world building thing of
Okay.
Mary Margaret being a nun wouldn't make sense because they basically decided that the fairies now are the nuns.
That makes more sense now. Because
Yeah.
I was only thinking of the one fairy, not all
No, it's
fairies.
all fairies. All fairies are nuns. Blue is Mother Superior. She's like the head nun, but nuns are nuns.
What is this world building? Then I was obsessing again over being born into a life of servitude.
Yeah.
Uh, again, and them like trying to convince him, like, no, you have to go back to work and let her live her life. You can't do this. Go back to being happy in the mines. And then he's immediately not happy. And I'm just
Mm-mm.
like, y'all, I don't like the word that this actually is. I don't like
No,
this.
blue is always read as very suspicious to me, and like to many people, the actor included. She always said that she always thought that Blue was like pulling some kind of nefarious strings behind the scenes. And there's one thing that, like, when we get to season 6, I can say I kind of always thought Blue would be this character in disguise. It'd be a lot more interesting that way. But she's not. But I think that's a massive missed opportunity. Is like Blue should have just
Right?
been like this evil entity pulling the strings all the entire time. I think that would have been really cool.
And
But
I'm
no.
sorry, I'm laughing a little bit too because then pulling in the whole like nun thing, that's even funnier. Like that would be hilarious. That is you're right, that's
Mm-hmm.
a missed opportunity because
I think so.
I would eat that up.
Mm-hmm.
Um I love Leroy. We know this.
I know. We know this.
I enjoyed this episode just for the simple fact of I got so much Leroy.
You got a lot of Leroy in this one.
And my favorite line comes from him.
Uh-huh.
Do you know how much damage I can do? I'm solidly built.
I wrote that one down too. I love it so much because like it's fair. That's the fair assumption is he says he's got this plan of how to like end things or whatever or to fix things, and he's up on the roof and just goes, "Don't jump." He's like, "What? You crazy? I
I
could
would
hurt
hurt
someone.
somebody.
You know how much damage I can do." He is solidly built.
And I only had one note at the end when it came to all the David stuff because apart
Mm-hmm.
from like Regina, of course, is the connection. And I'm just like, ooh,
Yeah.
suspense because I'm just like,
Dun, dun, dun.
David didn't do anything.
No, but again, Regina had to have her Deus Ex Evil moment. They needed a reason for her to
Exactly.
be in the
So
episode.
I really didn't make a lot of notes about that. I was too focused on the
Mm-hmm.
eggs. Um
Yeah, fair.
the life of servitude for dwarves and
Which
the
is
poor
fair.
love story, like, and of
Mm-hmm.
just loving Mary Margaret and Leroy's dynamic because it was
Yeah.
absolutely wonderful. I loved it.
They really are a dynamic duo. Like, truthfully.
Truly. I can't wait to learn things.
I know. So our blue fairy, was known as Mother Superior, is played by Keegan Conner Tracy. Um, funnily enough, which this truthfully will never not be funny. She was also Queen Belle in the Descendants movies on Disney Channel. At the same time.
Oh, that is her.
That is her.
It's not easy to tell because in
Mm-hmm.
Descendants her hair is so different and
Oh yeah.
they all wear these very like preppy clothes. I've
Yeah.
watched far too much Descendants. I have a 9-year-old daughter.
I've seen the first one.
Oh, you got to watch the second and third one.
Okay.
I have a problem.
It's fine.
But then she doesn't look the same. All the hair
Mm-hmm.
for the blue fairy, I couldn't tell it was her.
Yeah.
I see it now.
No, I know. Not now that I've pointed it out, now you see it. But the funnier thing about Descendants, I find this hilarious. The CGI that they use for the dragon Maleficent at the end of
hmm
the first Descendants movie is the same CGI that they use for Dragon Maleficent in Once Upon a Time. It's the same CGI.
I love that.
Which you haven't seen Dragon Maleficent. Now that I'm saying that, you won't see her until the very end of the season.
Yeah, but that's going to be really cool because then I'm like, hey, I've seen that already.
You have, and I will probably point that out again.
Probably. You need to watch you need to get to the third one though because you get Hades.
I have heard that.
You gotta keep going so you can see Hades.
Okay.
And then you have to tell me about it.
One day. We'll just add this to the never-ending list of things that Laura needs to watch.
Yeah, but at least but you're working on Ted Lasso.
I am working on Ted Lasso. I think I have 2 episodes left of season 2, I think.
Oh my god.
The last episode I watched was the funeral episode.
Just know that I love you.
Okay.
Maybe don't watch this week. This may not be the best week to watch Ted Lasso.
Maybe not. We'll see. So again for guest stars. Well, I mean, I guess I was gonna say again for guest stars. Keegan Connor Tracy, she's always a guest star. She's never bumped up to main cast. Astrid/Nova is played by Amy Acker. She is in a lot of the Joss Whedonverse stuff. She was an Angel. She was Beatrice in that weird version of Much Ado About Nothing that he did. I stand by. That's still the weirdest adaptation of that play.
I don't think I've seen that one.
I don't recommend it.
Okay, I won't do it.
A lot of her stuff, she was also like in 65 episodes of Person of Interest, but most of her other spots here and there was like horror stuff was mostly what she's done.
I love hearing that though, because she plays a very good clumsy fairy.
She does. Like she's very adorable.
Yes, exactly. So I now need to see what she's done in horror because I like horror and I need to know.
Yeah, she was in Cabin in the Woods is the one that I wrote down because that's one that I've seen.
I love Cabin in the Woods.
So much like you, I also was just super fixated on the eggs for no particular reason. And not unlike you're being born into a life of solitude thing, something I put in my notes because I felt the need to point this out was dwarves and fairies. Let's talk about this odd gender dichotomy they threw in here for no apparent reason.
Yeah, why?
Like, dwarves are all men. There are no women dwarves. They say that very specifically. And fairies are presumably all women. Like,
hence
why?
Nuns.
Hence nuns, exactly. Why?
Why did we do this? Also, who laid the eggs?
Exactly. Where did the eggs come from? Now they're creating more questions than they need to of, oh, they hatched from eggs because but eggs are still a two-body system.
How did we get here?
Because you can have eggs that don't fertilize. That's where you get our food supply eggs from. So, if the egg is going to turn into something, there needs to be other body parts. I'm very confused. And clearly it's not the fairy dust because that was an added entity that turned him into Dreamy. So.
I just who laid the eggs? Because something that lays eggs that size has to be very large. Do giants lay dwarf eggs? Like, what is happening?
I don't know, because we do see giants at some point. Because the only other egg-laying thing that we see are dragons, but their dragon eggs are not as big as those eggs because they house babies.
Wyverns.
No, there's an actual dragon.
Oh, okay, my bad. Sorry.
I'm not talking about the wyvern. I'm not talking about that one. I'm talking about an actual dragon.
There is an actual dragon. Okay, good.
There's an actual dragon on the show. At some point. I did appreciate Emma's line of when Mary Margaret explains the Miners' Day, history. She says, no, it's an old tradition that the nuns used to trade, their candles to the miners for coal, and Emma just goes, like, coal, if they were mining lobsters, I'd understand, but we've already done the research and we know that mining is a very big part of Maine's economy.
Yay!
Well, I don't know if I didn't get coal. I got quartz most likely, or granite. I think is what I'm
something like that. Yeah.
Either way, I mean, it's a reference to the dwarves. It's fine.
It is what it is.
But as they were on their way to work, after they were set up with their axes and everything off to their life of solitude, they're whistling hi-ho.
They are. I did like that. I liked that nod to the original.
Yeah, they do that every once in a while in the show because, I mean, because they can, basically. Like, because it's a Disney entity, it's a Disney-owned network, they can do these things much more easily. Because if this wasn't on a Disney-owned network, the dwarves wouldn't have their names.
True.
Because I feel like most people don't know, the names from Snow White and the Seven Dwarves, Doc, Dopey, Grumpy, Sleepy, Sneezy, Bashful, who am I forgetting? Happy. I got there. Those are inventions by the Walt Disney Company, whoever wrote that for Snow White and the Seven Dwarves.
Yeah, that's all theirs.
Yeah, so as opposed to, like, the story Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, which is public domain, those characters are not.
I still can't get over Stealthy.
Oh, Stealthy. But I told you he comes back.
Yeah, for a little bit.
You'll see him again. You'll see him, I think, one more time.
It's just so sad when they, like, kill somebody and then you keep seeing them.
I know. It's the issue with the jumping around is see, you know how their story ends up.
Because then you're like, oh, wait, cool. Oh, wait, he's dead. It's
bye-bye.
Bye.
So the mindset is almost entirely virtual, with the exception of a few columns and things that, like, the actors had to really touch.
Mm-hmm.
That whole set was green stage, which, like, is amazingly intricate. And I'm like, I'm in awe of it now that I know like what to look for, like what's practical set and what isn't. Because this episode actually did have a practical set that I've mentioned briefly before.
Mm-hmm.
It's the cliff that Astrid. This is one I always mess up Astrid and Nova. The cliff where Nova and Dreamy go to meet on Firefly Hill. That is a cliff, like a physical. I mean, I'm sure most of it is green stage, but like the cliff base and everything else is a piece of set that they use and redress constantly to be different cliffs. Again, I didn't know that they had started using that this early.
Okay, then.
Or I just didn't remember. But I like looking at, because I think of all the CGI things, especially in some seasons, I feel like a lot of their budget on CGI goes to their virtual sets, because there's not a whole lot of animation to them, because their virtual sets are gorgeous. Like they really, really are.
But then they make Regina walk weird.
Well, yeah, that they're moving CGI notwithstanding, their virtual sets are gorgeous.
Yes, I have to agree, because there's simple things like you said, like the clock and random things that I'm like, that couldn't have been CGI. But then, no, it was CGI.
But then it is.
They tricked me.
I know, they trick you. So this might be a little bit of a sneak peek into what my score might be later. My next note was just, this episode has a very nice through line moral of you can do anything you want as long as you can dream it. We love it. But that doesn't make up for the fact that nothing happens in this episode.
Nothing.
Like, the main plot line of this episode, or the main plot line of this part of the season, basically, the main plot line being what happened to Catherine, is the B plot of this episode.
How did we go from what happened to Frederick straight into what happened to Catherine?
I don't know. It's just how things have happened here.
And I'm going to blame it on Regina.
You do that.
I don't like that answer.
I give you no information.
Yeah, that's okay. I've learned to live this way.
Mm-hmm. One line that I will just always find hilarious. I don't know why this is the one that's from that one-liners compilation that I did that did stupidly well for whatever freaking reason. But it starts with Mary Margaret's line of, "Oh, Emma, help me out. What's more sympathetic, scarf or no scarf?" I don't know why I think that's so funny.
It was hilarious. I thought it was funny too, because Emma's just like, scarf?
She's just like, I don't understand what's going on here. Scarf. That's all I got.
You could tell she was just very much like, I'm just gonna give you an answer. Okay.
I don't disagree though that I think the scarf was more sympathetic.
I don't know how to tell how a scarf is sympathetic or not.
I don't know. Well, I guess she was trying to, look like someone you'd want to buy candles from, and her pouty face at one of the doors was very cute.
That was hilarious. I almost wrote that down, because she's just sitting there with her candle. All the doors and the faces.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what Leroy was thinking.
Yeah, I mean, his idea was they'll pay us just to leave. Which, like...
No, they'll just close their doors.
Exactly, they'll just close their doors on you. But, he tried. This was just me being... I don't know what I was doing here. I just wrote down, phone records don't lie. People do. Bread doesn't hurt people. People hurt people. That's what that reminded me of for some reason. I think that's a line from The Nanny.
I think it is.
So I have another rant mildly about the structure of this town. Not to go back to our line, our favorite line of Leroy. I don't want to hit I'm not going to hit somebody. Like, do you know how much damage I could do? I'm solidly built. That the structure of those scenes implies that they're on the top of Granny's in theory. That's what I would assume. So that would imply that behind Granny's is Town Square. But also behind Granny's is the B&B, as we saw from the pilot. But also, as we'll see in later episodes, the B&B is actually attached to the diner. I just wrote down after this, I can't with the lack of forethought for how this town is structured.
They just tell people, go with it. Just go with it.
Basically. Like, I know that the Town Square and Granny's building are two completely different towns, very many miles away. But, like, and also to be fair, inside Granny's is a soundstage. But I can't with the structure of this town. And it bothers me.
It's working against you every day.
It really is. Like, people have asked me to make a map, and I'm like, I literally can't.
we try and make a map, but then also be like, maybe this place is actually this, and this place is supposed to be here, but it can also be here.
Depending on what episode we're watching, the structure of the town shifts. It's like, oh god, what's that missing isle thing from Aladdin and the Prince of Thieves?
Oh, I don't remember the
What
name
is
of it, but I know what you're talking about.
It's the Vanishing Isle.
Ooh.
I was close. So it's the Vanishing Isle from Aladdin and the King of Thieves. Or just depending on where you are in the universe at any given time, the town parts just move.
I mean, maybe they do.
You know what? I mean, at this point, no. Storybook doesn't have magic.
Okay, fair. I
Not
never know
yet,
what to
at
go
least.
with. Wait, what? What did you just say?
What did I say?
Not yet. I have ears.
You know what? I didn't say anything. I mean, I go with the B&B being attached to Granny's the diner because that tends to make the most sense. Like there's a courtyard situation, but like I'm going to just go with the courtyard is off to the side and there is a hallway that connects them because for most of the show as we go on, it's pretty much like there's a hallway back there that leads to like the sitting room of Granny's B&B.
But isn't there like a laundry area back behind the diner too? Because she goes back there to do laundry.
Yeah.
So there's got to be a weird connection like that where the laundry and everything else is as well.
Yeah, the buildings have got to be connected somehow.
Mm-hmm.
But like we see like they use like the sitting room of Granny's like a lot in future seasons. So we just assume that it's all attached.
Oh goodness.
I'm sure the building that we see as Granny's B&B is also miles away from the building that we see as Granny's Diner. I'm sure, like in real life.
Oh, of course.
Naturally. To be fair though, actually now that I'm thinking about it, in the pilot, Granny asks if Emma wants a forest view or a square view.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I've just gone on this entire rant, I might be wrong. I still don't like it.
Help my brain out. How are you wrong?
If there's a square view from the B&B,
mm-hmm.
that means that the diner could, in theory, overlook the festival.
Oh,
if the buildings are near each other. But to be fair though, again, the square isn't anywhere near that's nowhere where there would be a forest view and a square view. Either way, the structure is still wonky.
Unless like the backside of everything does face the forest.
Maybe I'm like the understanding of like the town is closer to the beach than it is to the forest. The forest is more the outskirts. Is the understanding, but again, there is no understanding here.
There's absolutely none.
So
it could be anything, and we just have to go with it because the writers just went, we're not going to give you like an actual map. See, this is why I like fantasy books. They give you a map so you know where everything is.
Exactly. I really hope anyone listening has followed any of this. Welcome to the spider web that is my brain right now.
It's a fun place to visit.
To be fair, that's this entire podcast, but also just like, I'm so sorry if anyone followed any of that.
We're going to have to post these videos just so people can see that we're like actually using our hands a little bit to try and figure this out.
We're very much talking with our hands right now. We have to. It helps me with the spatial awareness of that which is Storybrooke that doesn't exist.
Like, just give us a map, please.
Creators of Once Upon a Time, hey, if you ever hear this, do you have a map of Storybrooke? Can I look at it? Because I'm very confused.
We need help. Also, I need an answer to the eggs. Leroy, help me.
What's even funnier about that scene, and this is something that I have unfortunately just picked up on from watching this too many times, it's because it's in slow motion is why I've noticed this. The stunt double when he explodes the transformer, because it's clearly not Lee Ehrenberg on a roof, obviously for safety reasons. The stunt double doesn't have a beard. Like, if it was a faster scene, you wouldn't notice it, but it's in slow motion because it's dramatic that way.
Yeah.
To be fair, most people aren't watching this eagle-eyed like I am, but still.
Yeah, I didn't notice it.
Just put a fake one on him.
Like, they have those. You can just put it on.
Amongst the various things that we have severe umbrage with, one of which being the eggs. I said before I did like that the name coming from the axe. I like that as kind of an identity thing because the axe never lies comes up again. I did because the idea with the dwarf pickaxes is that they are so tough they can cut a diamond. That comes
Yes.
up in 2 episodes. Like that line specifically comes up in 2 episodes. So in theory, he shouldn't be able to break it. In
Yeah,
theory,
but he did.
but he did because I wrote down dwarf axes are hard. I kind of like how now that he's changed, he is no longer dreamy, even before he gets the new axe. So his axe breaks, weakens, and he can break it because he's no longer dreamy, which is why he needs a new axe.
But if they're so strong, why do they have another one at the ready? Because he's like, give me another one, and no one like questions it. They just hand him another axe for
Well,
the new
because I
name.
mean, maybe they can break their axes. I don't know, but I kind of liked
Okay,
the I liked the metaphor of he's kind of lost the identity of dreamy, so his axe weakens. I liked the metaphor there.
I like that. I do like that.
So we're gonna ignore the fact that they just had blank ones ready to go.
Yeah, but it shows that you do change as a person due to what happens
Yeah.
in your life.
Which I mean, he's always been like a different kind of dwarf. He's always been a slightly different dwarf anyway, I think, because of the fact that he had the fairy dust on his egg before he hatched.
And he hatched so early.
Exactly. I do realize we've spoken quite literally nothing about what is actually the main plot of this section of the
Oh
season,
yeah.
which is in fact what happened to Catherine Nolan. And I this whole episode has been about what is essentially B plot. But the B plot of this episode is the main plot of the season, which is the very beginning of what happened to Catherine, because all we've seen so far is that her car went off the road. I did write down, if her car went off the road and someone found it last night, why is she just getting a call this morning?
Yeah, she should have gotten a call when it like
Immediately.
flashlights exist.
Flashlights exist. You know, you are the only sheriff in this town. It's not great to be on call 24/7, but that's kind of what your situation is right
But
now.
also, does she have any? She doesn't have any deputies.
Nope. She was the deputy.
So why hasn't she gotten more deputies?
I don't know, because nothing happens in this town until now. I don't know. She'll have help soon. Very
Okay.
briefly.
That just confuses me. Like, you're the sheriff. You were the only deputy. Maybe hire a little bit of help for like
I-
small complaints.
If we've already established, that you can just add anyone else because it's in your budget, just pick somebody. It's fine.
Yeah.
So basically, what we get out of this episode is that the investigation will lead towards something nefarious has happened, obviously, as her car went off the road. Her luggage is still in her car. We don't really know what happened there. I do like Emma's initial logic of car broke down, you hitch the rest of the way, keep going. That's normal human being logic. I do question how Sydney found out about the car crash.
Oh wait.
Why Emma doesn't question how he knows.
I don't remember.
I don't know if I don't think he said. He just says just because I got fired from the paper doesn't mean I can't do a little freelance reporting.
Yeah, how did he figure out to be there?
Well, Regina obviously said something.
Well, of course it's Regina. It's always Regina.
She's the one that gets the phone records. Which, funnily enough, actually, the phone records have a very small detail in them that is actually a plot hole. Surprise, surprise. That I read on the wiki, and I cross-checked with screen caps. I double-checked. Not that I didn't trust the wiki, but I double-checked. Catherine's phone records indicate that she disappeared on a Sunday, which is quite literally impossible with the way that the days are laid out and what happened to Frederick. Because Catherine confronts Mary Margaret at the school, which is a school day.
Yeah.
And the next day, when she decides to leave, we see Catherine says to Regina, I'm sorry for what happened yesterday. But in that same day, we see Emma meet Henry outside the school, as it is a school day. That's the same day Catherine leaves. If she had a phone call with David the day that she left, it cannot be a Sunday. That's not how schools work.
I love your brain. I would have never realized any of that.
No, but again, most of that I got most of that from the wiki, but I did cross-check it with the screen cap to make sure that it did say Sunday.
Wow. How do they mess something like that up?
Honestly, my guess is because what the phone records say is Sun 19, which would probably mean it was Sunday the 19th. Now I'm actually going to look up if February 19th, 2012 was a Sunday. February 19th, 2012 was a Sunday. Okay, so they got that part right.
What day of the week did these episodes come out?
On Sundays. Oh, you know what? I can fix this confusion. I mean, now I get why they did it.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I look at the script for What Happened to Frederick, that aired on February 19th, didn't it?
Look at us doing some detective work.
Yeah, okay, there we go. It says Sunday 19 because What Happened to Frederick aired on February 19th. That's why they did it in there. I don't think the person in props realized that made that timeline impossible.
This is fun.
we figured that one out. We did a little detective work.
I love this.
So I now understand why they did it, but I don't think they understood that the way school works, the way the script works, she couldn't disappear on a Sunday.
Yeah, that wouldn't have been able to happen. But I do like that they were just like, we're gonna put this on it because
I now understand that. I now feel a little bit better about it now that I've kind of figured out in theory why they did it that way.
I'm happy to help.
Yeah. My last fun fact, which isn't really a fun fact, it's just kind of a thing. Ironically, this is the first episode where Ian Bailey, who plays August, is credited as starring, which would mean he's main cast. Yet it is an episode where he is not featured.
Yeah, I was about to say, we didn't see him.
He's not in this episode, and yet it's his first starring episode.
I think someone messed up there.
Maybe he's originally, for all we know, he could be in the episode originally, like he was in the full cut of it, but as we've established, they write 60 minutes and they cut to 42, so.
Fun times.
Yeah, so should we do some stats?
I would like to preface my stats. I love Leroy.
Mm-hmm.
So I gave character a 9. I had to.
Okay.
Watching Leroy and Mary Margaret together made me so happy.
Which is fair.
The solid lines coming from him were just wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
I gave plot an 8. Like, it's not a terrible plot apart from eggs.
Yeah.
And like you said, the gender dichotomy was very flawed.
Oh, absolutely.
Those two things are like my biggest problems with the episode. But apart from that, I had a good time.
That's fair.
I'm just gonna be thinking about eggs for far too freaking long. And then personal, I gave another 8. Like, I did enjoy it. It just eggs.
Yeah.
So it's a total of 25 for me.
Oh wow.
It's Leroy.
I mean, I know it's Leroy.
This is gonna be. I can't wait.
I'm prefacing this with I gave it a few extra personal points because of Mary Margaret being sassy. Like I found her to be so enjoyable throughout this entire episode. I will also counter this lost a lot of plot points because the main plot of this part of the season is literally the B plot of the episode, and this is the way that I phrase this: that the main plot of this season is literally the B plot of this episode in favor of the Candle Brigade. So, with that in mind, I gave it a 5 for plot.
Wow.
There is no plot in this episode. There's very little plot in this episode.
That's fair.
There's no the flashbacks it's backstory, but still. And like I said, the main plot of this part of the season is off to the side, basically, in favor of, like, this is very much an evidence bit of, like, this is a filler episode because they have 22 episodes to fill. I get that you need these breaks. Not every episode is going to be plot all the time because they have the space to kind of flesh out these characters and give us some stuff. But still, there's no plot. Similarly, I give it a 5 for character. Damn. Because nothing happens in this episode. So, like, so much of this episode I wrote down was like small town logic. Like, Mary Margaret sold them all candles. Now they like her again. Small town logic. Like, nothing happened.
That is so not how that works in a small town. All I'm gonna say, I grew up in a small town.
Not
not how that works.
But still, it's that's the logic they went with. So it got a 5 for character. Also, the extra personal points gave it a 7. This is my lowest ranked episode of the season. It got a 17.
Look, I like Leroy. That's all I'm going with.
No, which is perfectly fine. I am not faulting you for that at all. Like, this one has always ranked lower, I think, because I think the eggs and that nothing happens.
I'm sorry. We've said eggs so many times in this episode. Can you count when you edit? Please?
Take a drink every time we say eggs.
Oh no, don't do it. You'll die.
Like, I like the backstory of what makes Grumpy grumpy. I like it. I think it's a nice dichotomy from what you expect. You expect it to be like, that's the way he always was, but it really does become more of a thing of he started out one way and life kind of caused him to change his worldview and things happen that way. But it also does give a little bit of an example, or I guess a reasoning, behind why he's so open to snow.
Mm-hmm.
Because he remembers, like he says throughout the episode, he remembers the good times. Like, you know, why don't you remember the good times you had with your guy? Like, you know, throughout all the bad stuff, there was good stuff too. So he in Fairy Tale Land, he remembers the good stuff. He holds on to that, and I think Snow kind of helps bring that part out of him. She brings out the dreamy side of Grumpy.
That's yeah.
So like I like that, but this one is just it's chaos, but not in a way that I'm like, I love this chaos. Because there's other episodes where I'm like, this is pure fucking chaos, and like, it's amazing. This was just, why did we have this?
No, I'm with you. I agree with all your points. I think it really is truly how much of like I enjoy getting Leroy's backstory.
Yeah.
It's one of those when you like a character, man. Like I feel like you feel the same way sometimes when it's Regina or Snow.
Oh yeah.
Or like one of your characters, you're like, oh, I get more stuff. This is for me. I'm like, finally, I get Leroy because I think he's hilarious.
Yeah.
He's my little pirate.
He is. Oh yeah. But no, I do know what you mean, because especially like with Regina backstory, we're getting very close to the Regina heavy backstory of this season that you're looking forward to. That will be episode 18. So we're on 14 now. So that's 4 episodes away.
I will see you in a month.
Yeah, almost there.
Almost there.
I'm very excited for that one, because that one also has commentary. So I'm just like,
is that commentary I can watch?
I have to watch it first and let you know if you can.
Okay, watch it first, and then I will have to recheck the DVD out.
I don't remember if I don't remember if you can. I don't think that many of them had the spoiler alert thing on them, like the Skin Deep one did. But I will, because the 7:15 a.m. one definitely didn't.
Okay.
But I will, once I watch it, and because honestly, once we're at the week where it's time for me to watch it, I will watch it very quickly.
And that way I know if I need to just run to the library and pick it back up, and
yeah,
you see, experience commentary for once.
Yeah. That commentary isn't quite as much like the Skin Deep one, where you can't hear the episode at all. Which was honestly hilarious. They're commenting on the music. We can't hear any of it. But in the case of, I think Lana, Eddie, and Adam are the ones that did the commentary on that one. They were good at stopping when certain lines needed to be heard.
That's fair.
Especially if she's commenting on like the voice that she used for a line, they would stop talking so we could hear what voice she was using.
I love her voice work.
I know, me too. But we'll get to that in a few weeks.
That's fair. But also, flat hand, Lana. The whole time I'm like, flat hand.
For context, Lana Priya recently posted videos of herself feeding horses with bad technique, apparently.
And in my defense, I grew up I grew up in the middle of nowhere, but we did have neighbors who had racing horses, retired racing horses. So we had to learn how to feed them correctly. Don't let them anywhere near your fingers. Like, you feed horses with a flat hand and you put the food in the middle of your hand. And that's the safest way to feed them, because horse teeth are scary.
Good to know.
Thank you all for listening. Join us next time when we discuss Bob's Burgers Season 3, Episode 3, Bob Fires the Kids, and Episode 4, Mutiny on the Windbreaker. Don't forget to like, rate, and follow the podcast wherever you listen so you can be notified every time we publish a new episode. And follow us at OBDYK_pod on Instagram and TikTok.
This has been an episode of Okay, But Did You Know? A TV and media podcast. It was hosted by Lauren and Katie and edited by Lauren.